was reading the paper, and this is 1995, so it's after I had my own experience, and even after I'd started to write the book. And the only reason it caught my attention, it was in the mainstream newspaper. This is the New Zealand Herald of 7th month of 95. And there was an unusual landslide or a slip on the road in the same part of the state highway in the Mamakus that I was driving on, almost in the same exact point where I had my own experience. What happened was that in my own experience I was driving my car along that stretch of road, and the whole road appeared to shake like an earthquake, and I felt that the car was shaking, but maybe the road was shaking, or maybe both were shaking. And these people were driving on the same road. Admittedly, there had been some rain, so there was a chance of a landslip. The road started to shake according to them, but it created a bit of a landslide in it and knocked their cars off the road. And they were rescued without any loss of life, thank goodness. But there were various parties involved. 3 or 4 cars were involved in this being swept off the road when the landslide happened, and they were travelling in opposite directions. Both people reported that they hadn't intended to be there. They had suddenly changed their plans within the last 12 or 24 hours and decided to do that drive at that point ahead or behind schedule.
Do you think that
I'm not making any suggestion, I'm just relaying facts. That these people, for no good reason that they could say, decided to drive that stretch of road at a time they hadn't planned on doing so. So they had almost an external force suggesting they should be at that point, and that they both arrived, both these people travelling in opposite directions should both get to that same point at the same time and be involved in this is rather freaky. That's just the one aspect of it, and they can't actually explain why they suddenly changed their plans, and that's well documented here. Now, not only that, but in the same newspaper there was in the same area of New Zealand, which is just Bay of Plenty area, there was a meteor sparks a flood of flare reports, same weekend, same day, almost to this within the same hour. But if it was a meteor, I mean, it certainly wasn't. It travelled the whole of the North Island, changing colours as it did so, and it's reported by pilots and from the ground. And it seemed to sustain a flight, like meteors don't normally do that. They're just transient things. But this travelled up the coast of New Zealand, leaving from this point at this time that this happened, within 30 minutes, as far as I can tell. So what I'm saying is that the chances that these two events aren't related are pretty slim when you read into the area that this happened and the reasons these people were there. Quite strange. In fact, one of these guys here that rescued some other children, he blacked out afterwards.
Fascinating. You wonder if they had the same choice of whether to remember or not.
And also, maybe the landslide was an accident that wasn't meant to happen. I mean, the same thing happened to me. The road started shaking in that area just before I got lifted off, but it was dry. It was the summertime when I was there. They just had some heavy rain, and maybe the same event that was causing this interaction actually created a landslide. So there was an accident not meant to happen.
Well, you do praise Bruce Cathy with his theories, we'll use theories, on how they use electromagnetic lines to take off and to land, and there are some spots, of course, that are perhaps more magnetically in tune with their ships.
Extraordinary amount of sightings in Rotorua area. And even here, even the Maoris have myths and legends about the children of the mist and strange white-featured beings that lived in the clouds, if you like, or in the bush, that they never actually found. They were seen but never traced to where they used to live.
And that's fascinating. Mr. X has suggested that there was has been an increase in sightings or massive amounts, and he was wondering if what thoughts you have. Is there something going on, heightened activity?
Well, I can confirm that there are a lot of sightings, and once again, a lot of them are, well, top half of the North Island. There's even been reports of landings of what I call qualified scientific type people that have actually seen doctors and that. And these people don't normally come forth with this sort of information unless it's dramatic in their life. Reports of occupants getting out of a UFO within sight of these witnesses, which
Wow.
is very rare.
What shape, what type, do you know?
The details have not been released yet, but I'm in contact with Sue Hanson, which runs the New Zealand UFO website, and she gets all the information, or people report to her, well documented, and she runs information and double checks it to make sure it's kosher. And she has on her own website, New Zealand UFO. What's it called?
Yeah, I think it's just the
New Zealand
New Zealand
UFO or
UFO.
something. Anyway,
website,
the reports are certainly beefed up in the last 6 months or a year.
Oh, absolutely. It's been an increase all around the
Yeah,
world.
so, and I have, I've got my own little website now, coev.co, whatever it is. Because about it in 2010, I sort of got a tap on the shoulder. I felt there was something telling me that something's important's
Yeah,
about
it's
to
coming,
happen.
and
But
it's close.
once again, the timing of it is what is, to them it might be 5 minutes, to us it might be 5 years. You've got to wait to say, get ready for it, and I'm sort of waiting for something to happen.
Have you got any idea of what it's going to be?
No idea at all. It's just that you get a sixth sense, an inner feeling that there's something big is going to happen, that you could be involved in directly or indirectly, and it's sort of like when you may be getting ready to go to maybe a rugby match or a motorsport event that I used to go to. You get a bit excited.
Yes.
You're packing your bag, or you got your lunch or your drink bottle or something. It's sort of like you're getting ready to go somewhere, and in a sort of a sense, I get that impression that get ready, pack your bags, or get your mind into a state for something to happen. The most spectacular sighting I've had, because prior to 1989 I'd never seen a UFO in the sky, never looked.
Well, this is it. Most of us don't look.
About 3 years ago we were having pre-Christmas drinks just down the bottom of this road here, friends of ours. We were just out, and they've got an outdoor barbecue thing, and we were just sitting out having a drink, having a wine. It was just on dusk, it was just gone dark, about in December, and up from One Tree Hill, which is just over there, this huge orange globe just comes sailing through the air, as large as life. I had no idea how big it might have been. Could have been 30, 40, 50 feet across, and it appeared to only be 1,000 feet or two up. It was travelling about the speed of a slow car, maybe 50 kilometres an hour or so. And I was having a wine with my partner and the two friends down the road, and I said, "Oh, look at that!" And I said, "Excuse me, I'm just going to go up the front of the road," because they were down in a little bit of an alcove and I couldn't really see that well. I said, "It's a very unusual thing in the sky, that none of the others moved. They were so, they thought it was politically."
They could see it.
I don't even know whether they bothered to look. I pointed to it. They didn't get off their chairs and go and investigate. So I left them. It would have been rude. It must have been rude to go and watch a UFO while you're having a drink with your friends. It wasn't like I was at a town hall meeting. We were just having casual conversation, and you see something that you might never see again in your life fly over, like people from another planet. Sorry, we're talking about, I don't know what dress they were going to buy or what colour they might paint their house. So I left them, went up to the front of the street, stood there and watched this huge orange globe, which couldn't be anything that we could conventionally describe, floating at 50k with no noise, silently, ghostly, and it was lit from inside. It was a glowing orange ball, clearly, waltzed across the sky, and then it deflected towards the east over there. It was coming north-south, because One Tree Hill's over there, and dormant volcano, by the way. Straight across straight towards me when I was down the bottom of the street, and then it did a very slight curve and headed out to the east and went out over the Gulf, I would imagine, out over the harbour. It disappeared. And of course my car was up here, I couldn't follow it, I wasn't going to anyway. I watched it until it was just a dot in the horizon.
Well, I've seen the red one, and it was from the North Shore looking back over towards you.
It would have come from the North Shore, straight in the line of Auckland to One Tree Hill, right over the top of One Tree Hill.
And it would change colour. It would go from a magenta-y, reddish, pinkish colour, almost this colour here, to, as Alex said, an orange. And the ones that I was seeing that turn on and turn off, they phase in, phase off, phase off. One got very low, right over the house, enough that you could actually make out kind of markings, like you get seams in an aeroplane. You could never really see a physical object totally manifest itself. It would just like something turned on.
That's
and
interesting,
then it just
because
turned off. You couldn't see a thing, not a dark, nothing, and it would just pulse. And you'll find that a lot of these ones, if you're lucky enough to see them, they pulse.
Yeah, well, on Sue Hanson's website, UFO New Zealand, there were several reports. I think I sent you a copy. Of an orange globe, but this one stopped somewhere and got down low, and they said, and it switched the shield off, if you like, and within the orange globe was a very defined craft.
Yeah, well, see, it was
much
miles
more
away
detail.
So we saw it about the size of your thumbnail, and it was looking over your way. It was looking over towards me, and of course that is where the airport is. So we made darn sure it wasn't a conventional aircraft, and you can always tell. Red, green navigation light, strobe light. Through the binoculars, no, this thing was just like this red-orange glow, and it would just slowly, as Alex said, go across. It vanished behind a whopping great tree in front of my place, so you're anticipating it's going to come out the other side. Well, it didn't. I ran up the street with the binoculars, it had vanished. It had just completely gone.
Yeah. Well, from these sightings, that people that are watching one of those actually turn it, if you like, its screen off, there is something inside one. And you think, you could imagine, of trying to imagine what this orange ball could be, and when you think of it now, it's almost like a portal or some sort of a canister or something.
Do you think it's possible that you, the red one has been seen by a number of people that was on the site, but do you think, for example, I think of Billy Meyer, the Swiss farmer who had the contacts way back, and they can narrow the opening so that just an individual may see it because they happen to be standing in that, move 10 feet to the left, 10 feet to the right, you won't see it. Do you think that might have been the case, where in fact you were the only one that did actually see it at the party?
I was the only one interested enough to follow it up. But it still stuns me to this day that an apparition like that in the sky, which is so clearly not an aircraft, and it didn't have any logical explanation, that people sitting down just casually having conversation and drinking wine couldn't be bothered to make the effort. So I think, some people are not ready to know.
Some people would
they're
simply tune it out.
Desensitized. What are you interested in then?
Kim Kardashian's next dress or husband?
I couldn't. To me, it was.
Sorry, Kim.
It was on a forget 1989. The next most exciting thing that's ever happened, because this is clearly something that has technology beyond what we would expect to see. And here it was displaying itself for me. No shame. It wasn't trying to hide.
No.
It was in clear. There must have been hundreds of people that saw it, I would have thought.
Well, I would have thought hundreds of people would have seen this white
right
bright
over the
one
top
that
of
we saw
Onehunga
4 nights in a row.
On a clear night, no
Because
wind.
even if it was an aircraft, it was too low. It was so bright and so big, you couldn't miss it.
Yeah.
And hundreds, thousands of people must have seen it. But as it got close to Auckland, it just every single time, 4 times in a row, it would just slowly fade out, nothing.
Because the only thing is, of course, when I'm outside, especially at night, I'm always looking up. Not continuously, but I'm always glancing.
I've put some time aside now to do some regular UFO spotting.
But I know a lot of people don't. People just look down.
I think the neighbours think I'm perving at them, but I'm not.
Yeah,
If they
I
observe,
am
I'm
sure
looking
a lot of people, I look out here every day and every hour of the day, because I've got a good view of the sky here, and I'm always looking out there. If a UFO ever appeared out there, I bet I'd see it.
Well, you would see heaps. My parents used to live on the Thames coast, and you look back towards Auckland and you'd see them just about every night without fail. And you get what I call the flashes. They just appear like a star coming on, like almost like a flashlight going off in the sky. Got 4 in one night. I was just going down the stairs. They've got one of those bay windows that kind of goes down the stairwell. Bing, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
4 go off just like that, and then you can track it because it will keep flashing as it goes across the sky. Sometimes only 2 or 3 times. Got one go over very, very high up, straight up, beautiful clear night about a week ago, and you could track it from where it was flashing. And then another one came back barely 10 minutes later, and almost exactly the same path in the opposite direction. So you're getting all kinds, but this red one I've seen, I don't know whether it's the same kind of orb, for lack of a better word. The bright glowy one that you're talking about, that seemed quite different. This thing was like a very solid object. This time it was very, very low. I'd been wishing it would come back, and it did, and it would just pulse on. And I saw it through the window, raced outside to get a better look at it, could see it, to what I swear were markings, but it was almost like a dull light shining up underneath the hull. It was, from what I could see, disc shape. As I went around the corner of the house, nothing. It had just gone. But it was getting a bit close for comfort. But I've seen them bigger and closer than that. That was the first one.
I was just basically, I just wanted to see what was, because obviously you just come out in the last 2 years, just come back just to say, hey, look, something's up, something's happening. And so I just wanted to get your input on that, what you felt was going to happen. And you were talking about the dark matter, this
negative influences. Yeah, but that's I think that's well covered in history. When you go back to the human, it's almost like that's part of the human race's emotions being used
farmed
as a food source.
Yeah.
And that's what that does. And it doesn't have to be evil. But you certainly, if it's driving a negative influence, then it's certainly something we need to be aware of. And you need to, quite honestly, I'm not saying you should chop off your emotions, but I think if you're going to have emotions, then try and make them usable to us as well. Like, in other words, unconditional love and joy and laughter, and think that way instead of negative and hate, because there's not a lot to be gained from negativity and hate. And it might feed the other creatures, but in actual fact it doesn't do us much good. So I'm suggesting to people, don't dwell on the negative. I mean, because you won't change anything by doing so.
So
you feed it. So you've got to, the minute, it's almost like being out of yourself a little bit and becoming self-aware enough to realise that once you're getting into that space, whether it's an external force that's doing it or whether you yourself are creating it, or it might just be the guy next door who got up and started his lawnmower at 7 o'clock in the morning and heat you off a bit. You just suddenly got to grab that and change it.
Yeah.
You've got to, think of it in terms of a colour. You don't like, say, the colour green. Well, then turn it into a colour you do prefer. That to you is your unconditional love, is your whatever. Yeah. You have that ability. We all have it, and I think
our consciousness
really
projects
in the
a long
future,
way
the message I'm getting is that we're all going to have to learn to be consciously aware of the thoughts we're having and how we are sending out these colours, if you like, and
we've got a powerful a powerful tool, if you like, that most people aren't aware of, and that is an emotional output. It's huge.
And our ability to change that and create what we want.
I mean,
it's a choice.
If it manufactures anything, we might as well manufacture a positive side of it rather than a negative.
Are we proacting or reacting? And most of us react.
Well, when I look at the way the world is run, certainly negative energies are the most dominant.
Yes.
I mean, the military complex have got it down pat, because war, fear of war, or contemplating war, or actually physically being involved in it is a fear factor like no other. Yeah. So you'd have to say, well, that's not going to do us any good. So that, it's almost like they're being controlled by negative entities.
Yeah, it goes up the pyramid.
Yeah.
So you have a positive outlook for our future.
I always have had a positive outlook. I mean, I've been through my negative phases as well, as we all do. I mean, you can still trip over the curb and stub your toe and make it bleed, and you don't have too many loving thoughts for a moment, and it's difficult to control what comes out of your mind. But I think people realise how powerful their minds are and how powerful their consciousness is. It can actually turn you around a bit. It's almost more powerful than a gun.
What did you see?
The cloud out, that when I was looking out the bathroom window, which faces south here, there were other clouds in the sky, just very natural looking brown, some white, some grey, and there was one white one in particular which seemed to be out of focus to all the rest, even though it was slightly further away, and it just was ingrained with lines. It was just made up solely of lines. And when I did a heat, when I put it on the computer, an Apple Mac, and we did a heat analysis of the cloud, inside the cloud was a bell-shaped UFO, or appeared to be.
I've got to find out what that software is.
So you would have to say that the cloud was just a screening device to hide the object which was in it, and they didn't bother to do a very good job of making it look like a cloud, except that it was a bit fuzzy and it's sort of whitish, and if you at first glance when you look at the sky, it's just a cloud.
And probably most people, if they did think something unusual, would go, oh my, look at that, an unusual cloud. Keep driving.
Only I go and get my camera and say, I've got to get a photo of that for Christ's sake, because that is no normal cloud.
Because you're aware, you've jumped that level beyond where most people will be at to realise that, hey, there is something weird about this.
Well, I might finish recording there. I mean, you know, we've got
good as.